Hi, I'm Amanda Rogers. This is my observation video introduction for EDLD 5311. I will be observing Amanda Mask and Kristen McCoy as they combine classes to teach the concept of timelines, a social studies TEK in 3rd grade. Was speaking with both of them. They plan to use the instructional strategies of cooperative groups. They will be combining their classes and making 10 groups of 6 for students to collaborate and share ideas throughout to create the most accurate timeline. They plan to be summarizing information for the timeline that the kids collect by reading articles. They begin to first set the objective with the kids and let the kids make their own we will and I will statements, part of our Fundamental 5 initiative in Weatherford ISD, and provide feedback to the kids as to if their we will and I will statements are accurate representation of what they will be doing. They will be questioning the students. That's another instructional strategy they plan on doing, and not give direct answers to students when students ask questions. And I believe that will be the majority of their instructional strategies used. They said that they are going to plan on jigsawing some articles so that the groups can go out and be experts on a certain piece of an article and come back to their main group and share what they became an expert on to complete the summarization of an entire piece. They are going to differentiate the instruction by implementing high yield strategies and letting the students complete the task to their ability. And the teachers will assess student engagement by actively monitoring and being in the power zone, moving around the room from group to group.
You put like for how many years you're in school, you put like a little line, and then you put like a little straight line down each, and put one and a point, and then you see how many years it is, and then you put the years with the pieces.
Okay. Well, it does kind of look that it does. I remember our timeline does kind of look like that, like the line plots we did. It is really similar. But let's think about a timeline. For example, let's see the timeline of my day. What did I do first thing this morning? I woke up, and then what did I probably do? Get dressed, brush my teeth, take a shower, all those things.
You're missing
What about?
Get coffee.
Oh yes, that was a very important thing. How could I forget that? But a timeline is going to sequence your events in order. Sequence your events in order, just like when we summarize. Remember, things had to be in a logical order. Would it make sense if I said, I went to bed, and then I had breakfast, and then I went to school, and then I played soccer, but then I went back to school and had PE and music?
No.
Did you follow her day in order if she did it that way?
Yes, no. Unless you keep
Thumbs up if you could follow. Thumbs down if you can't. That was confusing to me. That made no sense. So timeline is going to put all your events in logical order. So the first thing you need to do is make your we will and our I will for your timeline. You're going to be making a timeline of the events that happened at Soldier Spring Park. No one should be writing yet. You're just listening. You're making a timeline of the events that happened at Soldier Spring Park. So first you're going to need to do what for our we will, I will? How do I make a we will, I will? What do I look at? What do I look at to make a we will, I will? Okay, what is that called? Anyone know what that's called? What's her name? Ava. Ava. Oh, did everyone hear what Ava said? Thumbs up if you heard what Ava said. If you didn't listen, Ava said you're going to look at your teeth. What kind of teeth where do you think we'll find our teeth about making a timeline? Oh, what do you say? Maybe in social studies. So first, To make your we will, I will, you need to look through those sheets and find one about social studies. Remember, your I will is what you're going to show me so that I know you know how to build a timeline. And I just told you what we're going to be doing. You're going to build a timeline of the events that happened at Soldier Spring Park. I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to come up with your we will, I will. Right now you're doing it. Right now we're starting.
I can't help you. You have to ask Miss Mask or Miss McCoy. A pencil? You need a pencil? Go look up there by those highlighters. That green basket right next to him is some pencils. I can't help y'all. You have to ask one of them.
Miss Rogers, our hand is, I can't help you. That's your hand. So we gotta find something that starts with, I can't help you.
Very great. You can have voice about that time. Oh, sorry. Thumbs up if you have your we will, I will. Okay, thumbs down. If you need another minute to give me a thumbs up. Okay. Have we all of these found our cheat that has to do with timelines? I think some of us are struggling because we're only looking for one word. The fact that we're creating a timeline has got some of us stuck. If you don't find the specific word timeline, which you might, but if you don't, think about in your category whatever words you can look for. Why do we use a timeline? What's the point of using a timeline? So you may need to look for some of those words Would anyone like to share their we will and their I will? Those groups that are still kind of struggling, now would be a good time to listen and kind of get some ideas and see if it makes more sense. This group, why don't you share first? Speak nice and loud so everyone can hear. There we will, and we will make and interpret timelines. What's your I will?
I will make a timeline of Soldier Spring.
Fantastic. Good job, guys. Where did you get your we will from? What's that called? What are those called? Teaks. So they actually got their we will straight from their teaks. Thumbs up if you use your teaks to come up with your we will. Another group, why don't you guys share? Do you have a we will, I will?
Not yet.
Okay, then I'll come back to you. What about this group? Will you share your we will? Charlie, your group share your we will, I will statements. Okay, this group, we will, I will. Oh no, we don't even have a we will. You should be listening to this. Okay, third grade, your computers are closed. Hold on just a minute. We have some friends being very rude. Third grade, your voice is off and you are listening to this group. Okay.
You will create and interpret a timeline. I will create a timeline of Soldier.
How come this one sounds just like that one? Why? Why, Andrew? They use the same exact text to create their we will and their I will. We will create and interpret timelines. Good job. You guys came up with some excellent we wills and I wills. What is the purpose of we will and I will statements? Is this just something for you to work on to keep you busy? No. What is the purpose of them? Because some of us see them in our classroom, but we don't use them. They're just kind of there. What is the purpose of we will, I will statements? Okay. Well, some of you have said, I don't know how to do the I will. What's the question that we've asked you? When we said the I will, when you write the I will, what does that mean? Lexi, what did I say?
I will mean that you're gonna do it I will create a timeline.
That's what you're actually going to do. That was pretty close, right? Is it closer? Okay. What is the purpose of these we will and I will though? Charlie, why does Miss Rogers and Miss McCoy and Miss Mask and every other teacher you've had for the last couple of years put time into these? Is this just something we like to do? What are these we will, I will for?
So if someone walks in and they ask what we're doing, you just look up there and read it and you tell them so we won't forget it.
Good. And even if no one walks in, what does it mean for you? Yeah. When we were outside today, how many of you were sitting there with your we will, I will in front of you thinking, I don't know what I'm supposed to do? Raise your hand if you were still confused.
After you wrote your we will, I will statement, were you still confused about what you were going to be doing that day?
No, and if you forgot what you were supposed to be doing, what could you do? Oh, who said look at it and read it? That's what those we will, I wills are for, so you know exactly what's expected of you. We told you as soon as you're done with this whole lesson, you're going to do what?
Write it up.
Create a timeline of Soldier Spring Park, so you know what you're supposed to be doing. You shouldn't have to say, Miss McCoy, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And at the end of the activity, you could look back and kind of check that off in your mind, like, oh, I did that. I did what it said we were going to do, right? So that's what those are even for. You guys did a fantastic job creating your we wills and I wills. Give yourself a pat on the back. Are you ready for the next step?
Yeah.
Your voice was on. I would turn your voice off so you can hear the directions. We now have our we will and I will. We know we're going to create a timeline, and we know that at the end of all this, you have to create a timeline of Soldier Spring Park. And here's the problem. Raise your hand if you know what happened at Soldier Springs Park way back long ago. You know when it happened? Raise your hand if you know when the soldiers were there. year? So can we create a timeline? Can we create a timeline if we don't know when things happened and if we don't know what happened at Soldier Spring Park? So what do we need to do, Richie? Oh, we probably need to do a little bit of research. So where am I going to do my research? What am I going to do? Hold on, you need to raise your hand for permission to speak. There's a lot of us in here. If we all shout out, you won't hear each other. We might use our computer. So how am I going to go about that? Am I just going to pull my computer up and then it's just going to tell me what I need right there?
You have to type in.
Okay, so what's the first thing I probably need to do once I get on my computer and get logged in? Like,
Clear obsolete.
okay, I'm going to have to hit Control-Alt-Delete and I'm going to have to get logged in my computer. After I'm logged in my computer, what's next in the blue bill? What's your name? What is it? Leslie. What are we going to do next? Oh, she says that she thinks we're going to get on Google. Thumbs up if you agree with her. Okay, we're going to get on the internet. You're going to go to Google. What's next?
Do you have a driver's class?
Yes.
Will you please take Carrie to the office? She's leaving early.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
you. Okay, so we are logged in our computer. But do you think there might, what happens if there's more than one Soldier Spring Park?
You have to type in. You have to type in.
Oh, because what community do we live in? What's the name of our town? Weatherford, Texas. So if you type in Soldier Spring Park and you get all sorts of different parks, you might want to refine your search by typing in Soldier Spring Park in Weatherford, Texas. No one should be on their computer yet. Once you get on there, what kind of information are we looking for? Thinking about what we painted on our wheels and our wheels. Okay, maybe when the soldiers are there, is that all we're putting on our timeline? No. What else are we going to look for? Tristan. Okay, did our trails go on our timeline? What kind of information goes on the timeline? Okay, Mason, what kind of information goes on the timeline? Keep thinking about it. Back to Ian, what kind of information goes on the timeline? Important information like what? Evelyn. The stuff that happened, and I need to know the date of when it happened. Thumbs up if you've ever even seen a timeline. Okay, before you start, I'm going to show you an example of what a timeline looks like.
And Zane gave us a fairly good example with our line plots.
He
The
did.
line plots that we did yesterday, they look kind of similar.
Miss Scoggin, can I turn this on? Does this work with that? What?
No, the thing that down there, the tower, under the yellow piece, that's the tower.
Okay. I don't want to break anything.
All right, that's how you turn it off. That's like the computer tower piece right there.
But usually on a timeline, you're going to have dates and you're going to have important events. Remember, those dates need to go in order. So if the first thing you find is about soldiers camping in Soldier Spring Park, that needs to be your first thing. And then if I find something that happened yesterday at Soldier Spring Park, does that go right next to when the soldiers live there? It's got to go in order with all the information you find and the dates. Shall I go and start researching? Because I don't know how long this is going to take. Okay, I want you to go ahead and start getting logged into your computer.
Some teams aren't really good at it. They might
You'll be fine. You'll have another one. You're okay. Bob.
Did you find it? So have any important grades and important information?
What are we doing with this information? Some of you said, oh, look, it used to be a baseball field. Oh, look, I found this. What should we do with that information as we're finding it, as we're reading? Ian, thank you for raising your hand.
Putting it on.
Oh, hang on just a second. Chris, can you hear you? Okay, now go ahead.
This is a low-level walk-down. Please take proper procedures. This is a low-level walk-down. Please follow proper procedures. Again, this is a low-level walk-down. Please follow appropriate procedures.
So, Ian, what are we doing as we find information? What are we doing?
Reminder teachers, this is just a drill.
As we find this information, what are we doing? Writing it down was a good answer. They didn't raise their hand, but writing it down is a really good answer. Hang on just a second, third grade. You need to be writing it down as you find it so that when you're ready to build your timeline, to create your timeline, that you have the information down. So don't just read it and not keep track of what you're finding. Everybody got it?
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, so y'all see
You hear me?
Go to another link that popped up that talks about the next week.
That's Facebook.
Does it have some information? Did you read the words? Anything on that page? Then you need to go back. You go back until you get to your links. There you go. let's write down these dates and
Lockdown drill is complete. Great job, guys. Just a couple of reminders. On the low level lockdown, you just wait till your door is locked and you can continue on with class. There's no need to cover windows or do anything like that for low level lockdown. It's just an outside threat. So great job, and we will keep practicing.
It hurts. Do you need to go to the bathroom? I don't know what to tell you. Maybe try to sit with like your knees up, you know, where you're kind of held together.
most all of us have found a really great article that talks about the history of Children's Green Park. Once we get there, some of us are a little confused or we're really the information that goes on our timeline are important dates and what happened on those dates. So you should be reading the article you have found and writing down the dates with what has happened. For example, this group wrote in their journal, at Soldier Spring Park in 1890, veterans camped there. This group's kind of already had the rough draft. They're pre-writing. They're working on their timeline. They even went in 1890, veterans used this site for the 25th reunion. You guys read your article and get all the important dates and what happened on those dates. Once we get that done, we'll start building our timeline. You have 5 minutes to record the important dates and the events that happened on those days. That brings up one more important thing. So what's on there for us?
Do you need to copy word for word what happened in the article? No, you can kind of shorten it up with the main idea from that sentence. You don't have to copy word for word. I know a lot of us are spending a lot of time on that. You can shorten it up and get just the important parts out of that sentence, right?
Okay. Yes, so you need to remember your dates so you can organize it on your timeline. Without your dates, you can't put it in order.
We're reading it, and every time it says a number, I'm writing it down right here. So when we're done, I don't have to look at the number.
That's great. Do these numbers mean anything? What happened to it? I don't know. You're going to write it. Okay, the soldiers can't stay there. So you need to write that. Soldiers can't stay. Otherwise, you'll see the number. You don't know what happened.
Miss Roger, it's still loading. Okay,
3 minutes.
You ready to make your timeline? Do you have a partner? Go ahead and look and see if you can find any other important things. What are we working on?
Ask Miss Math. There's a plug right there. Again, this is Amanda Rogers. This is my reflection video for EDLD 5311 video observation. After observing the class and re-watching the video this evening, I noticed some instructional strategies that were in place that were very effective with the students. First is when writing the we will and I will statements, the teachers both questioned the students and compared their we will and I will statements for similarities and differences, one of Mazzarno's top 9 instructional strategies, and they came up with a simpler way to write those we will, I will statements for their timelines. They shared, the students shared within their groups how they thought that the we will, I will statement should be. Once they began the research for their timelines, the teachers were moving around the room. They were watching what the students were doing. One thing I really liked was, just as they had told me, they were going to answer the students' questions with questions, so not give them direct answers. It was amazing to watch the students, like, learning taking place within them, because when the teacher would ask a question back to them, it made them think a little bit harder, and they were like, wait, we don't need you anyways, and they would move on. So it was very student-led. They provided some non-linguistic representations of what a timeline should look like. So they modeled with the students. They, of course, the instructional strategy of cooperative learning groups was in place. The kids were very engaged within their groups. They differentiated instruction by walking around, being in the power zone, making sure that students that needed assistance were assisted, and honestly, they didn't have to differentiate too much because the cooperative groups differentiated for those students. The students self-scaffolded for themselves. Student engagement was amazing. Every student was on task. They were very interested in the topic. that they are making their timelines over is really neat to observe. A student was very interested in the park behind our school, and there's a controversial issue going on to put bike trails or not put bike trails in this park. So there's numerous newspaper articles, and before I'd come in, they observed these, or read and analyzed the articles. They jigsawed the activity. So each person in a group went out, became experts on their paragraph, went back and spoke about what was going on in the article, and they pieced it together to make a summary of the whole article. And they're very passionate about if they're for or against. So I think the engagement was heightened there because they wanted to know what all had happened in this park as they created the timeline for the park. I love that they're connecting it to a real world activity, something that is real to the kids. Of course, in social studies, it would be probably a real world timeline, as it would probably be a historical timeline, but I love that they took it and made it something that's happening now that the kids are passionate about to increase that engagement. What went well was all of that. I could not believe that third graders were writing we will and I will statements on their own, and I can't wait to get back to my classroom to try it with my kids. They were referring to the standards as TEKS. They were identifying the TEKS and discussing, what that TEK meant. I did like how the teachers moved around the room. I would probably, what would I change? Most likely, I would probably have the kids do Ask 3 before me. So before, there were a lot of hands up. So before they could actually have me come over to help them or question them, they need to ask 3 people, 3 other groups. And I would also, she used, to get students' attention, she, would use the clap once, clap twice method, or if you can hear my voice. I found in my classroom, give me 5, and also letting the kids use these attention grabbers has been very effective. So I might implement that. I would also change when they discuss the TEKS and their we will, I will statements. I would probably take a minute to discuss the verb. What does it mean to create a timeline? What does it mean to analyze? I would most likely discuss that verb and make sure that there is a understanding with all students of what exactly they will be doing before they write their I will. And I think their I wills would be a little bit more effective than, because they all just put, we will, create a timeline of historical events in logical order. That was their TEK, or of something of that standard. And their I wills was, I will create a timeline. So I would probably describe that a little bit more and get those I wills a little bit more in depth. They were in the power zone. One thing I might change is a little bit more R&R, a little bit more recognition for the kids, very purposeful. Like, Johnny, what a great way to put that in logical order. I really like how you're putting that in logical order. Very direct information that was surprising through this experience was that third graders can read standards. They can write their we will, I will statements. And, it's for the student. That piece of Fundamental 5 is for the student. So why are the teachers writing those? And I think that it made it so much more effective for the kids to write those we will, I will statements, because when they got started working on those timelines, they were extremely engaged and invested in them because they wanted to get to their I will. And they knew that was what would show that they had mastered their we will. It was amazing to see a student-led classroom. I myself try to practice student-led environment, but Miss McCoy and Miss Mass knocked it out of the park while I was observing. This experience will transform my practice as a school administrator because, number one, being in there was a distraction for the kids because they all wanted to come up to me and ask, why are you not in class? What are you doing in here? Why do you have a notebook? Why are you videoing yourself? There has to be a way for us to make observations, formal observations. And I understand in this scenario, I was to not video the kids. But as an administrator, I want to get in there with the kids. My observation would be interacting with the students and speaking with the students and interacting with the teacher, being a part of that classroom community. And also, as an administrator, I think that in 21st century teaching practices, it is time to let go of the teacher does everything and allow teachers to take the time to let the students explore the standards and invest more into what they will be doing for the day, the task that they will be doing. I think the standards, if you are teaching to the standard, you're just doing the norm. You're doing what's expected, and we should push farther. We should push our kids to think a little bit more critically than just what the state says, and incorporate a little bit of technology into that. Integrate it. Don't use technology for something that is just tech use. Integrate it. Make it purposeful. I also think one of the things that Miss Mask was saying when I was turning off my video was that after they created their timelines, they would be creating a survey, and that they were going to survey community members about this issue with the bike trails, and they would video and put it on a Google form, and they're going to send it to community members and to the local newspaper, and hopefully get some feedback on how many years people have lived here and if they're for or against the bike trails. And then they're going to go in and add that into their timeline. On this certain day, we surveyed and we collected data. This many people were for or against the bike trails. And they're going to continue this timeline until the end of school. And she said their ultimate goal was to have an impact on whether there are or are not bike trails put in this park, and meet with the city council. So it's an amazing project. It makes me see that the administrator I want to be is to really encourage a student-led classroom, to really encourage the teacher to be a facilitator, and to encourage the questioning from the teacher instead of the direct answering. I feel that so often teachers just go over and without even thinking, give a complete explanation of something, and they've already answered the whole question that the student was tasked to answer themselves. And they've done all the work for the student, and there was no learning taking place. It's a sit and get. So the hands-on, the student digging into the standards and creating and working collaboratively. I saw a lot of kids that have been identified and labeled as dyslexic or special ed kids that were so engaged, and their timelines might have been a little bit messier than others, but working in those collaborative groups, they were contributing and people were contributing back to them, and they were talking about, well, where exactly does this go and how does it go there? And there was so much talk about what they were doing. It was amazing, and I can't wait to get back to my classroom. And more importantly, I can't wait to be a leader myself and be able to share my experience that I witnessed with other teachers so that we can create some more student-led, purposeful lessons within our classrooms.